Hey guys, Rob here, Iris Prop Masters, and today I am going to be jumping in my time machine, going back 40 something years, if only, and building this helmet exactly how it was done 40 something years ago. Okay, we're going to use all the same techniques, same materials, the same starting point. This is from a production made, all these components are from production made pieces, so this is pretty damn close to how the helmets were made, and the results of when they're put together is pretty close to what we see on screen. Yeah, I'm very fussy like that. We've done a lot of research into this, and I'm going to share it with you today. So let's go. Let's see what's in the kit then. First of all, we've got the faceplate. We've got the two main hemisphere parts, left and right. Move them around so you can see them in that light. We've got the bubble eyes. We have rubber trim for the bottom. We have the decals made by a good friend of ours, J-Tie Pilot. We have the metal greeblies for the ears. We have the forehead greeblies. We have the two ears for the side of the helmet, infill panel, chin strap, and the joining strip on the top. And let's not forget the trident. Okay, so we don't need to worry too much about all the components because I'm going to break it down and we're going to explain what everything's for. But yeah, there are a few components with this. And that means there are a few different stages with it. So let's start with stage one, which is the main kind of bulk of the helmet, the hemispheres, joining the two hemispheres together. I almost said that correctly. So let's get into it. Now, I'm pretty sure we usually send these out a little bit more trim than this. So I'm going to get them down to that stage. But if for some reason you got them like this, you're going to know exactly what to do. So I'm just going to cut away, get rid of a load of this material that we don't need. Again, I get comments about being quite brutal with this and the way we treat it, but that's the way it is. Do not be intimidated by the plastic. So if you're needing to cut this, you can see there is a line down the middle there. I don't know if you, yep. You can see there is a faint line down the middle. You need, I don't know what it is. I'm going to say an inch, but it's probably maybe a bit less. We'll just leave an inch on that side there. And you want to cut enough off. You don't want to have any raised area on here because that's going to cause us problems later on. So as long as you've got inch or 3/4 of an inch, doesn't have to be pretty, doesn't have to be nice and straight. You know, it's kind of a bit haphazard. That's fine. Okay, so that's trimmed out now. Yours will probably arrive like this, okay? But if it doesn't, you know how to get to this stage. Just really roughly trimmed it out. Get rid of a bit of this plastic that we really don't need. Again, I'm using the shears for this just because there's a lot of material that I want to move quickly. You don't want to waste a lot of time on the part of the build where you don't need to be wasting time. Getting into this corner can be quite interesting. And the shears really don't want to get in there. Okay, and again, down the center of the helmet where the joining strip's going to go, I've got This side looks a little bit short, looks more like ½ an inch. Okay, let's get rid of this. Move these out of the way. Okay, our left and right hemispheres. This is the main kind of body of the helmet. Then we're going to put the face in there. Then we're going to dress it with the ears on the side. These little bad boys. They're kind of covering the join between these and the face. I mean, let's not forget, this is the basic X-wing element of the helmet. And then we're going to add the Stormtrooper specific faceplate, and then the ears go with that. And obviously the trident. Okay, so there we go. Hemispheres roughly trimmed out like that. And at this point we can build. We can move from there. So on the back of this, on the end of this cover strip, I've got 3, you see them there? Get it in the light. These are approximate again, an inch. A little inch tab. It's pre-scored, I'm just going to snap them off. Okay, we don't need the cover strip. Now I will just point out that these, the cover strip and these little pieces that are part of it, that these are cut from, there's a good chance it's got this protective film on it. So I'm just going to take that film off. These will not have a film on. We remove the film before vac forming. Well, obviously these are not vac formed, hence why the film's still there. And it just protects it during shipping. So at this point you're probably thinking, what the hell are these 3 little tabs for? Well, so the 3 little tabs, what on earth are these for? Well, these basically hold these 2 parts together while we attach the main cover strip that's going to join the complete helmet. Okay, these are present on the original helmets, and they do make life a lot easier when you're building this. When we kind of saw them and worked out what they were there for, it made a lot of sense. Okay, so these are the exact same width as our finished cover strip, which is fine, but I'm just going to take a very thin sliver. I don't know if you can see how much I'm getting there. Let me cut it off. Right, so I've cut about this much off. Let me put it down. It's like a couple of millimeters. You see it? It's that one there. It's about a couple of millimeters, if that. Okay, that's just going to give me a bit more play on the very front of the helmet. So the one I've cut down, I'm going to save that for now, because we're going to start at the back of the helmet. So we have a corner here. I'll use this pointy stick. We have a corner, we have a corner here that we really need to utilize, because this flat edge here needs to marry with this flat edge here. Yeah, so those corners need are important for the build. Don't worry about the front. The front is going to be what the front is going to be. What we're concerning ourselves with is getting this square, because when we put that cover strip on, it needs to come around here, then it needs to fold flat, and it all needs to be square. Trust me, it's going to make sense as we get into this. Now the tabs go, one goes around here, one goes around the middle, one's going to sit in the back there, it's on the inside, one's going to sit approximately central, and one is going to be in the front section here. Okay, that's going to be that one that we cut shorter, which is over there. I don't want to confuse it, but I need two at this time. So I'm going to take my magnets. The guys here cover the magnets in the masking tape so that it doesn't mark or scratch the plastic in any way, but it just reminds me of a toffo. Remember toffos? Look at that. It's making me want a toffo. Toffos were a confectionery for kids in, I don't know what, 70s, 80s? Right, I'm just having a think now. You're gonna have to cut this bit out. I'm just trying to work out, because I don't actually do this. Right, I know how to do it. I mean, I came up with the idea, told the guys how to do it, and now I'm thinking, how do I do it? Right, so on the inside here, we've got, we can see there, I don't know if you can see it, it's quite difficult to pick up on camera because it's black, it's shiny, and doesn't really want to play the ball. But here, we've got, I'm going to call it a right angle, it's not a right angle. It's what do they call that?
45 degrees?
No, 45 is 90. I'm trying to think of the word. I don't think it's obtuse, I think it's the other one. I think it's the other one. But we've got a definite line that we can see in there with our actual eyes. You can't see it on camera too well. This piece is basically going to butt right up into that. Okay, I say right up into it, just come off it a little bit just to give us a bit of wriggle room later on. Okay, now for speed at this stage, I'm going to use a little bit of super glue. We are going to be using plastic weld, but I'm just going to kind of hold it in place with a bit of super glue. So if you get this nice and square, that's going to be a good start, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to stick the one that's in the middle. Can't really remember off the images. I'm just going to do it roughly central. There are not a lot of images of these tabs in the helmet. There are a few. They're out there. I'll see if I can put any on screen, and they're not easy to find. But when you're looking for these, then you're like, oh yeah, that's what it is. But there are definitely 3 of them. And as everything made 40 years ago for Star Wars, more than 40 years ago, it's kind of freestyled, so it's not all measured, it's just approximate. And we like it that way. Right. So now I've got 2 of those tabs. 2 of those tabs attached. Got the back one, and we've got the center one. I'm not going to put the front one on just yet because I'm going to use it to help me square this helmet up. And to do that, I think I want some clips. So I've got Paul's nipple clamps, and I might use a little bit of masking tape as well. And what I would like to do is try and hold this all together. And move that out of the way so you can see it. Right, so what I'm trying to achieve here is I really want the base of the helmet to be square. So I've got this piece on which is flat. Right, I'll take my toffos, give it a helping hand there. Yep, the base of it's square. Once we get into this, we're going to be golden, but yeah, I'm liking that. I'm liking it. Right, so I want everything to run square. As we know, these center pieces, bridging pieces, tabs, whatever you want to call them, are the same as our cover strips. Or cover strip. Okay, that bottom piece, I'm looking at that, and that's nice and square. Yeah, so we've got that. That kind of shows it. So what Andrew has just pointed out to me is that I'm using this on the bench and I'm not using any protective foam. And he makes a good point there. I'm going to use some foam, okay? But in my defense, I am actually building this to be an ATA helmet, but it's a tie helmet, okay? For the purpose of this video, it's a tie helmet, it's going to be an ATA helmet. Same thing. I'm thinking it's probably not going to be finished as a tie helmet. We're just going to go through everything, and then when we get to the tie bits, I'll tell you about them and show you them how it all works, and it'll become an ATA helmet. That's this one. It's the same helmet. Okay. Shh. Let's carry on. You are going to want to use a piece of foam or something to protect it on the bench when you're doing this, if it's not going to be an ATA helmet. Right, okay, so I'm happy with that. It's all square. I don't know if it's making much sense with what you can see. Look at that. It's not, trust me, it's square. So the bit that I'm interested in is the first capture, which is this corner here being square throughout there. So because we've got this on, it's going to be. Okay, I'm happy with that. So when we cut that piece, it's going to work. It's going to make more sense when we get to that piece. So let's just make sure that's in where it needs to be. Yeah, happy with that. It's kind of looking all right. Still got some movement. Right, let's get some adhesive on there so that we can move on to the next bit and this will start making more sense. Childproof cap. Not that childproof, I beat it. Using our plastic weld, this is the adhesive that is very thin like water. And I'm going to paint it on here. And it's going to go up inside where these two pieces are joined. Capillary action. Love that expression. Okay, so if you're wondering how that's going to work, I've got a really good way of explaining this, because the other night I was at home and I managed to spill my beer all over the table. And you know when you're picking stuff up to get it out of the beer, well, there was a book on there and I didn't think there was much spillage there, but I thought I'll move the book anyway. And as I picked it up, the whole footprint of the book was just beer, really thin coating, because it just sucked it in. That's what this is doing right now. And this is a solvent-based plastic weld, so it's going to go in there. It's going to melt the two pieces of plastic very slightly, and then when it evaporates, it's going to have bonded them together. Okay. Looks like it's worked. I don't know why I'm saying it like I'm surprised. I do it all the time. Not say it like I'm surprised. I use plastic weld all the time. Just get a little bit more in there. Nice. Right, okay, so I'm going to move that for a second. So this is what we've got. We've now got the back end fixed there, and you can kind of see how this is flat. If I get it at the right angle there, you can see that that's fairly flat. So when we come down here and we cut our cover strip, we can fold it into there and we've got a nice obtuse angle. Yeah. Now at this point, we have still got some movement here. We can wobble this round, we can pull this forward. There is, as with all of these ABS helmets, there is room to maneuver here with the build to square things up and to make things look right. There's always wiggle room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this one in on the front. Now this is the tab that we cut just that sliver off the end. The reason why I've done that is because the front is a little bit more important, because when we're attaching the trident, when we're attaching this is bang on 85mm across the top of the trident. Let me see if I can get a reflection of the plastic. I'll turn it over because we've got a bit of plastic weld spillage from before, but it doesn't matter. So the trident is going to sit over the top of the cover strip, and we know the size that the cover strip is fits in there very good. It's so difficult to see. There you go. It's going to fit tight in there. If this is too big, you're going to have a problem putting this on, and that's why I've trimmed it down just a touch. Actually, I'm going to take a tiny little bit more off, because if the front's too wide, we're going to have big problems. That gives me a bit more to play with. Right, so let's glue this in place. I'm very conscious that my plastic solvent weld is got the lid off and it's evaporating as I'm gassing. That's talking. You can clamp this, but by the time I found my clamps, it's probably going to have gone off. It's not going off. I'm going to try and clamp it. So I've stuck this on, I'm not going to say haphazardly, but I've not put a lot of care into it. It doesn't matter at this point. It's only one side. Ooh. Right. So I can now position my front tab exactly where I want it. And what I'm looking for is I'm eyeballing this. You see this area here? I want these to be quite level. I want it to be square. So if we look at this, okay, so there you can see that that doesn't look too clever. But if I pull it round, you can't see because my fingers are there. So I want to bring it so that these all look nice and nice and square. And I'm just going to eyeball it. And I mean, there's not a great deal to it. You're going on the aesthetic here. Now, let me get this in before I start talking. Right, so I'm looking at it. I've got the white background. Rather happy with it there. As you can see, it looks kind of square. I've got this nice and tight into the edges. Geez, this stuff's not going off very quickly at all. This is why they use plastic weld. Right, that leaves us with the one middle tab. Now at this point, we've still got a little bit of movement, a little bit of play that we can work on, but we don't need to. I'm pretty happy with that. Looks fairly square to each other. So I'm talking about this, the flat that we're going to put the cover strip onto. Yeah, quite pleased with that. Okay, I'll get my toffos on there. And we'll put some plastic weld on. I'm going to do both sides on this for speed. See as though we can get in there. Now, I'm not putting a lot of plastic weld in there. You don't need a lot. You put too much in and you might get it pooling and it'll start eating away at the plastic. It is attacking the plastic now, but it's doing it in a controlled way. We're controlling it by not putting a lot of plastic weld on there. Okay. Just let that go off. So, would you like to hear my anecdote on toffos? So toffos are a little toffee sweet that's wrapped in like a grease paper wrapper. And I once had a great big plastic bag of them in my kitchen cupboard. And I went out to work and I came home and I discovered that my dog had climbed up on the countertop opened the door, removed the toffos, for some reason closed the door, had the toffos on the floor, and then somehow had eaten about, I don't know, 50, 60 toffos. Now, if you've ever opened one, you'll know that they're quite difficult to open. So how the dog must have spent the whole day rolling these toffos round and then spitting the paper out. Crazy. Crazy. I don't think I've had toffos since then. Right, okay. What I will say is, when we're talking about making the helmet square, there is not a great deal on this helmet that is symmetrical in any way, shape or form. But that's it, we've got our carcass built and I'm very happy with that. Okay, that is our main carcass built. That's all there is to it. How long have we been going? A few minutes? We've got that. Right, let's prep. Let us prep our cover strip. And to do that, I need a sharp knife, a ruler, and a pencil. Neither of which I've got. I'm just going to double check this before I give out sizes. Yeah, that's what I thought. Right, so I'm just going to mark 2" or 50mm on the bottom here. It's really difficult to see. Right, so you do want this to be square, okay? Yeah, that looks okay. Right, before I snap that, this is perhaps where this one differs a little bit from an X-Wing helmet. On the X-Wing, it's much more bent around, whereas on this one, I don't know if they were scored and snapped and it's two separate pieces. I don't particularly like doing that because it doesn't line up fantastically. Okay, so I've, rather than break it and break it off, I've bent it on that angle. And now I want to offer it up into position like so. Should we put it on there? It might stop it sliding around. Now, before we do this, can you see that from the above camera? This piece is going to get cut down. I like to have a little bit extra just to play with. But there, this part of the helmet gets removed. This part, you can see it. But because it's standing up, it's going to stop this sitting down where I want it to. So I'm going to remove that. I only need to do it in this area. So I already took it off this side in anticipation of needing to do this. But I left this side, luckily, so we can explain what we're doing here. So I'm just going to cut some of that away. You can sand it, you can use whatever techniques you want. But that is almost your finished helmet size right there. So I've just removed a little bit from here to allow the plastic to lay flat on this flat edge. This is a bit to show this black, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll show you this and you won't be able to see it, but so that is what we're looking for. Yeah, so we've got that nice angle on both sides, or we will have. It's got to push it into place. Right, so I'm going to take my toffos. We use a lot of these magnets. They're very handy for those jobs where you need more than two hands. Don't use that bit. You having fun?
Yeah.
It's moved. Okay, so I'm just shuffling this round on the helmet so that I'm perfectly happy where it's going to sit. So obviously this is going to bend right round here and end up at the front of the helmet. And you probably can't see that because this is black. Right, my brothers. I'm quite pleased with that. So, I don't know if you can see that on the... I'm almost pleased with it. It's still not quite. A little bit of time now is worth all the effort. Right. I'm relatively happy with that. I've not got a whole lot more magnets, so I'm just going to take this down to get it out of the way so it's not slapping me in the face every time I move this helmet round. But I think you're getting the idea. I think you're getting the idea now. Right, so this is the bit that we're concerned with. This back quarter here. From kind of here down here, I want to fix all of that in position. I'm happy with the way that's sat in both sides. So I'm going to go right ahead and put my plastic weld in. Let's see if we can show this. Can you see inside there?
It's sort of fall, yeah, but we need to bring it down more or something.
Like that?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my plastic weld so that it's going to, I'll put it on here or on this joint, and it's going to go underneath there, and it's going to attach itself to that inch or 3/4 inch, half inch, however much we left on that flat edge on the hemisphere earlier on. But I'm only going to put it down the bottom. You can't really see what I'm doing too well, but I'm putting it in the bottom where my magnets are holding this nice and tight. And I'm trying to get a little bit on the back piece there that the clip is holding. It's so difficult to see. Hope you're getting this. Can you see this side maybe? Let's see if I can get that in the light. Right, so plastic weld on the bottom end here, just let that evaporate, go off, harden up a little bit. And then from that point, we're going to move everything down the helmet. So ideally what we should have is a nice, the nice straight of the cover strip, and then like the rounded areas on the side of the trident. Okay, let's put a little bit of this on so we can start moving these up, and this will hold it in place. All nice and tight. I'm wondering if we should have done a build in white plastic to show this. Right, let's move these magnets up a little. Now we don't want to, a tip for you, we don't want to do too big an area, because you want those magnets to hold this really nice and tight. We've got the masking tape on as well, which isn't going to do us any harm. I'll pull that nice and tight. Okay, we can even put another piece in there. What we don't want is any leakage from when we put the plastic weld on the inside. We don't want anything to come out on the outside of the helmet, so we just want it to be nice, the two surfaces nice and tight. And again, I'm not going to use a lot of this to encourage it to not leak out onto the helmet. When I'm saying that, it's not like they leak out very often. Well, they don't leak out. There. I'm going to sit it that way so it doesn't pool up. Tidy up some of this bench while we go. It doesn't take long to go off. So as you can see, we've got a bit of excess on the front here that we don't need. We can remove that, it's not going to be any problem. Right, let's go again. Move these around a little. Okay, I'm just checking to make sure that those two faces, this face and the one that's below it, the return that we left on, just making sure there's no gaps, because gaps will give you leakage and gaps will not give you a strong bond between the two surfaces. I'm just loading the brush, just like you would a paintbrush. It is a paintbrush, so just paint it in there. I'll see when we've done, I'll see if we can show the marks that it's left behind. Okay, I'm just going to, while that's going off, I'm just going to go to the bottom, have a look at it, make sure we're happy. Make sure it's stuck. Yeah, it looks good. I'm probably going to stick these on the top here. Right, let's move these forward then. Okay, final bit of plastic weld on this. That is what our inside looks like. I don't know if you can see where the plastic weld's been painted on there. You can kind of see that shiny surface that it leaves. So interesting to know, at this point in the build, we've not really done a great deal of sanding, and that's unusual when building a Star Wars helmet. There will be sanding to come, but we've managed to get to this stage without even switching the Dremel on. But the sanding is coming. Right, let's just have a look at this front before I put the lid on the plastic weld. So I want to get a little bit in there. Can you see that? You can't really see it, but there's a little springy gap there. I just want to get that bottomed off. So I'll bring the magnets forward. And then I'll very gingerly put some plastic weld on, but at an angle so as not to encourage it to go on the outside. If you do get a small amount on the outside at this point, it's not going to be the end of the world, because the Trident is going to cover a lot of this. Or you can use super glue. So here, I don't know if you can see that. See if I can get it in the light. Yeah, I think you can just about see it. Here we've got the cover strip here, then the hemisphere half there, that half inch, and then our tab on the inside. So there's 3 layers of it. And I'm just going to put the plastic weld on there. That's going to bond everything together nicely. Notice how I moved it. I didn't want to leave it at that angle to encourage it to go on the outside of the helmet. I think that bit's going to grab, but it's taking a bit of time, so I'm going to put a little bit of super glue in there. Just a little drop, let it run down there. Clamp her up. Don't really know how to describe how I'm feeling about this now, or what I would call this stage of the build. But basically the hemispheres are together. Now, is that the more difficult part of the build? I don't know. Don't know, but we're a chunk of the way in now, as you can see. I'm quite happy with that kind of squareness that we've got. Everything's lined up how I would expect. Sit down on the bench. It's a bit front heavy at the moment. Yeah, pleased with that. Right, let's see what we got. I mean, you've got to hand it to the designers. The way these things go together. You know, the technique they came up with for building this. Really cool. Right, we'll get that trim in later, but this is what we've got. Let's give it a from the back there round to the front. The 2 pieces are joined, and it's very dark and you can't really see it, but it's together. But it needs trimming out, ready for the face to go in there. Okay, so I will do that right now. And before we do, let's put the lid on this, because that will be escaping. Right, so it's going to be Dremel time. There are a couple of areas here that I can just remove with the shears though, just to save a little bit of time. So there is, you can see kind of where the bottom of this line is going to be when it's trimmed, and then here. There. So that rough edge there, we're just going to take that out. Quite difficult to see, isn't it? This gets trimmed away. This gets covered anyway with the ears later on. Trim a little bit of that away. These lines that I'm cutting to, you can see them pretty clearly on the vac formings where I'm cutting. Be careful in this corner, it's easy to get a bit overzealous and damage the bit that we want to keep right into this corner. So, especially when you're cutting from this angle, because of the curvature of the helmet and the shape of the tools, where they clash, and that's where you can run off. So I don't go too close in that corner. Right, let's give this a quick trim.
Try and go to the overhead piece here.
Some of this. Okay, so here we have our built base helmet. You see that on the, you see how square that is? And let's see if you can see the where it's trimmed there. So difficult to see. Hopefully you're going to see a bit more when we start putting the face in. If not, I will do something to the face to allow it to show a little bit more. But that is the build of the main helmet. And from there, we are now going to add the face. But before I do, I need to trim the eyes out of the face. And once the face is in there, it's a case of putting the ears and the trident on, and she's pretty much built. I can't believe how little you can see of this helmet. This is ridiculous, building black helmets. Whose idea was it to build a black helmet? That is a big chunk of this build out of the way. We've got the face to put in there and these components and some greeblies, but that is the main job, is getting to this stage. This is quite easy, to be quite honest. I don't think it's a difficult build, but built. I don't think this one's a difficult build. Let's do it again. It's not a particularly difficult build, this helmet. It is actually quite enjoyable when you break it down, and especially this, attaching this trident is the key to it. But I'm going to show you some good tips and tricks on how you can't really go wrong with that. Especially if you've got this front section right, because you made that inner tab that little bit shorter. So the should have said when we made that shorter, that was to accommodate the thickness of the plastic on the outside of it. I didn't say that, but I've just said it now, so hopefully that still makes sense. Because you probably watched the whole video before you even started the build. Am I right? Okay, so join us next time and we will complete this tie/ATAT helmet.